This is just a couple of months worth of boxes that we've accumulated this year alone. In fact, I had to recycle so many even just getting ready for this video because I did not have storage space for all of the boxes that we actually have accumulated. Now, when I was a kid, we used to be so excited when boxes would show up. My grandparents would send a box from Texas to BC where we lived, and it was like, a box. I felt like that up until a few years ago, I feel like. Now I'm just like, oh, there's just another box, because we order everything online. And I'm wondering, do you order a lot of stuff online too? So online shopping has grown crazily in the last decade or so. In fact, I remember I went to nursing school. I started it in 2010, and I remember ordering my textbooks from Amazon because that's what Amazon was. It was mostly a bookstore. Now it is an everything store. And not only Amazon, but most companies sell things online. And we're going to get into a couple of the reasons in a minute, but some of them are pretty surprising, and there is a bit of fallout that comes with it too. One of the main reasons we like shopping online so much is the convenience factor, and who can blame us? Life is very busy, and I think that honestly COVID really got things kicked into gear when suddenly we were looking at like how to get anything. We were terrified that we were going to die if we left the house. So we started ordering even more than we already had before. And in fact, a lot of companies started offering more as well. I don't know about you, but when I order something online and I click add to cart, and then when I get to that checkout page, I get a little bit of a dopamine rush. Like I'm like, ooh. And then even though I did say like when the package arrives, sometimes I'm like, ugh. And that's kind of true for Amazon, because I hate to say it, I truly do. I feel like Amazon is like my store now. Well, that and Costco. And when Amazon stuff shows up, I'm like, yeah, whatever. But if it's from something else, like if it's from a clothing place, I'm like, ooh, I'm so excited. So there is a dopamine element involved. Let me know how you feel about like Amazon deliveries arriving, because for me, I care a bit less about that one. But that was most of the boxes you saw in there. Another thing is we're kind of an instant gratification culture now. We don't like to wait for much anymore. And when we used to be able to put things on layaway, we used to order things. This is what I was even thinking about the other day, that you used to fill out a form from a magazine or a catalog. You'd write it out, you fill it out. You would make a check, you would put it in an envelope, and then you would send it away to that company. And then they, after 4 to 6 weeks, would process it. They'd package it up, they'd put it in a box, and they'd send it back to you. So it would take a good like 6 to 8 weeks to get whatever it was you ordered in the mail. Now we're like, oh my gosh, it's gonna take 3 days from Amazon? Are you kidding me? That's crazy. And then the thought of paying for shipping probably sends a lot of us over the edge. I know I don't like paying for shipping. And then there's the things where they're like, well, if you buy 4 shirts instead of the 3 shirts you were going to buy, you get free shipping. And then I'm like, oh, well, then I'm definitely going to do that. So Lord knows the pocketbook is happy. Another psychological effect, think about kids. Now, when I was a kid and we were learning about money, I remember our allowance was something like 50 cents, or at one point it became a toonie, which is $2 if you're not in Canada. And it was like you actually had the cash to deal with. As a parent now, I feel like I have let my kids down with teaching them about money. I have bought like online courses trying to teach them about money, and I'm just like, oh gosh, like I mean, like, of course, like they were not very interested in it, but because then it was basically like I just gave them more homework. But I just think like, oh my word, like there's just no, it's for them, everything is just electronic. They don't feel like there's any kind of like value in anything anymore. One of my kids once, years ago, when he was like 7, one of our credit cards was about to expire, so we'd like cut it up, put it in the garbage. He went in there, took it out, taped it back together, and used it to buy like a couple of video games online. Because to him, that was where the money came from. Didn't realize mom and dad had to work for it, or that, you know, we had to buy food or anything like that. So there's another issue too with all of this online shopping, not just the boxes, and I'll get back to that, but it's that kids really probably find it very hard to understand the tangibility of actual money. Speaking of money, what about the financial implications with all of this online shopping? There can be hidden fees. There can be shipping fees we didn't realize. Like I mentioned, the overspending that happens when we're trying to meet the shipping threshold, the impulse buying. I know for me, in our house, we basically have like a minimum 24-hour cooling off period before anybody buys anything online. And I know for me as a minimalist, I do try to make sure that I know where something's going to go and that I know what is being decluttered in its place, because so often something should be decluttered in its place. And, like how we're going to pay for it, like all of that, like that I do. But I know a lot of people really struggle with that. And I certainly do a lot of the time. Another one can be subscription traps, like Amazon Prime, which, I like because then we get stuff faster, and we do watch like a couple of things like the Grand Tour or Clarkson's Farm. Love that one on Amazon Prime. But also there are the online subscriptions of boxes that are being sent to us. And, I have mentioned I'm interested in like ones that maybe are like snacks from other countries or something. I think that's great. But sometimes we can get ones that have like random things that we're going to end up decluttering. We're literally buying clutter by a subscription box. We forget to cancel it. So that stuff comes. Then there's like, of course, like the increased credit card debt. That can be a huge financial strain on a lot of families and a lot of people. Online shopping, it's just too easy to do. And one of the things, when we dropped our son off at university, I was kind of sad. And I remember like sitting in the Airbnb on the bed and just like looking at my iPad. And I realized I was shopping, like I was looking for things to buy, and it was like a way of soothing myself. And I never, ever, ever thought that I was like that before, until I was like, holy smokes, here I am on Lululemon hitting, like basically headed to the checkout. So lovely, so bright out. But then there's also the environmental implications. Just think for a second. How about the packaging, the shipping, the plastic, the cardboard? That was, like I said, just a fraction of what I had purchased. But I think I did most of the purchasing that we had purchased in just a couple of months. So the environmental impact of the cardboard, the plastic that wraps things, is huge. And think about the fuel to get things from here to there. People, they talk about I think it's called the 100-mile diet, like eating food within 100 miles to reduce carbon footprint. And here, so many of us are buying things online, like so many of us. And I wonder sometimes if a lot of these people who are like such environmentalists, if they're buying things online, or if they're actually managing to get to stores to not buy things online, because there are some actual problems with that I will get to in a second. Because we are talking fuel for planes and trucks, not to mention the returns. So if you order something and then you decide you're not keeping it and then you send it back, that's like double the shipping for one item. And then what's happening? Oh, it's just terrible. And I am so guilty of it. What about the social and behavioral changes? Think about how we used to go to stores for everything. And I remember just being so limited that way. And as a Canadian, we would always see commercials for things online that were in the US that we didn't have. And I remember like going down to Target sometimes and we'd be like, oh my gosh, like Charleston Chew or whatever random things that they had there that we did not have in Canada. And then like, of course, like the clothing stores and all of these things from years ago. But we used to go to stores, and I'm going to tell you a reason. And we're just actually going to start getting to the crux of some of the issues for why we're almost forced to buy online right now. And one of those things is that it is hard to buy things in stores now. So for me, I needed a mattress pad for our guest room. And I was thinking, in my city, just over 100,000 people, that I would be able to find a mattress pad in town for a reasonable price. Now, I went to a couple of stores, and because it was a king bed, because we had got a new mattress in here, we put that one in the guest room, I was really struggling to find one. I went to the oldest store in Canada and bought a mattress pad for $300 because I literally had to buy it that day. It was somehow on sale at $300, and it just was not a good fit. My husband actually managed to find one at Walmart. I don't remember why I didn't go to Walmart to begin with. Probably because I was like tired of driving around. But anyway, then I was like, okay, I'm going to return this one. Couldn't find the receipt. And then they were like, oh, no, we cannot do it with receipt, even though you bought it with a credit card. Yes, we can trace it with a credit card, but we don't want to. So the problem is, not only is it hard to find things locally, but sometimes if you can, the stores are making it hard to return things, probably because they're struggling to turn a profit because of all the online shopping. So that actually becomes a vicious circle as well. Another thing to do with the social changes of our online shopping is that the algorithms actually are targeting us. And here's a perfect example. So I was looking at Instagram and I had, it served me up a certain clothing company, and I watched the ad and I thought, oh, that looks interesting. So I clicked on it, and I knew when I clicked on it, I was creating a bit of an algorithm cascade, mixing things up a little bit, where I was confirming to the algorithm that I was looking for clothing, that I was also confirming to the algorithm that this company I was interested in, which was fine. And I knew that, like, I was clicking on it. But you let me know when you click on things if you're thinking like, oh, what is the algorithm going to do with this? Because there are times where like you see something and you're like, oh, I wonder what that is. Like, you're just out of like a curiosity or morbid curiosity. And if it's just like some kind of weird different kind of Lego or something, but then you know that is messing things up. So these algorithms, they're so targeted. They know, like this one, it knew I would like that kind of clothing. And I was like, I am interested. I mean, I did not buy any, but I know I'm going to be seeing this company again. There are a couple of other issues too with the online shopping that are a little bit scary, and that can be data breaches. Now, for me, I kind of am just like aware that my data is out there. I've been reluctant to do like a 23andMe or Ancestry because I am just like, they're going to use that information. I don't know for what. I have one family member who's like, good, then they can clone me when I'm dead. But I do have a friend who there was a data breach that she was a part of, and that was not good. So that's a concern. There can also be way more online fraud. We have to be so much more vigilant, which is super scary. And as I mentioned, there's just so much targeted stuff with the algorithms and everything. It's kind of creepy and just a little bit scary. I think another downside to the online shopping, there's so many. I mean, there's a lot of pros too. I'm not going to lie, or, you know, I probably come across as a hypocrite, but a lot of it can be like, there's some big time discrepancies with quality and things, like with Amazon, for example. And I said, I order so much from them. But I look heavily to the reviews because usually people will describe what it's like more, and other people have asked questions, but you'll buy something and you'll be like, oh my gosh, like this is like not good quality at all. This is like cheap plastic. This is going to break soon. We bought one of those like online fish that move. Like I just, in a period of a moment of weakness, I bought it from Amazon and it broke. And, it was past the return window, although I have actually had them refund me in the past. But it broke. Like, it was like the quality was poor. It worked on one charge and then it died. So that can be a really big issue too. Of course, return policies can be an issue, even though like returning in store locally, I think generally works better than that particular store that I was working with. The oldest store in Canada, I might remind you. But returning online for a lot of places like Amazon is super easy, but other places it's not. And like, I can't necessarily blame these stores for wanting you to pay shipping or whatever. I mean, I hate to be like wishy-washy, just willy-nilly buying things on Amazon and then just returning things on a whim. But I feel like that happens. And I know I have been guilty of that. Have you been guilty of that too? And about those reviews, sometimes they're not reliable. Sometimes it is inflated by the company. There's like a lot of fake reviews. So that's why when you're looking at the reviews, be very careful. Like look, try to see where people are from, look for certain details. This is truly just like what I do. I don't actually know what the actual advice surrounding this is, but that's what I do. I think that one of the most important things that I've realized just in realizing how many boxes I actually got in just a few months is just really narrowing down the mindful shopping. Now, some of the things I'm buying, I know I can get at local stores. A lot of the things I buy on Amazon are things like soaps. Like I love the peony soap by Mrs. Meyer's. It's so delicious and so yummy, and I can't get that locally. So I'm okay buying that. But there are times where it's like, can I go to a local store to buy something? I want to support local stores. I want, especially like, there are some local clothing stores I want to get. I mean, I make it sound like I buy a lot of clothes. I don't, but there are some local clothing stores that I actually try to go to first. Last year, my son was graduating from high school, and I was just like, I'm going to go and find a dress for myself. I ended up actually using one for my closet, but I looked at local stores because I knew that I wanted to try to avoid buying something online. I'm actually trying to go to stores more often, especially Canadian stores if I can, just because you know, like you want to shop local, as they say. I think you should do that too in your own country. And just like to support local people. And I think that it's more sustainable. Like if we can just reduce, no matter where you stand on a lot of these things, I think we can all agree that it's a bit ridiculous, the amount of boxes coming into a lot of our homes these days. And I really do fear for a lot of the scams going on right now. And I actually talked about some scams of buying things online and a couple of other things right here. And I think you're really going to get a lot out of that. I hope something great happens for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.